Alright folks, how you doing? Josh Reeves with you here. This is the Monday, March 30th video edition of the broadcast. Thank you for being with us. We've got a ton of news we're going to be discussing with you here in this edition of the broadcast, and some various other things I want to discuss with you as well. So strap in. Thanks for joining us here, and hello to everybody out there watching across YouTube and everywhere else. We thank you for being with us. Lots of news, lots of stories to talk about, and various other things I want to discuss a bit with you pertaining to my work and what we're doing right now. As you may have seen in some of the other recent videos that I posted, a week from today, actually, I am going to be conducting an interview with British television. They're going to be flying in a film crew next week here to come here in Dallas and interview me for a 12-part conspiracy show, and specifically some of the stuff that they've made me aware of that they want to talk about with me pertaining to this is stuff pertaining to the death of Philip Seymour Hoffman, Scientology, secret societies, who knows what else. They're supposed to get me a list of questions and whatnot. They haven't gotten that to me yet, so we'll see, but somewhere along those lines of things is what they want to discuss. So, and I'm actually quite excited about this because, you know, oftentimes people, when they want to interview me, it's usually always about the same stuff, you know, and as a researcher and somebody who's been into many different avenues of research and looked into many different topics, it's refreshing and good for me to get into some different stuff sometimes. So I'm very happy to be talking about that. Excited. This broadcast is going to reach millions, folks, hundreds of millions. Undoubtedly, this is going to be the biggest outlet for me to reach people that there's ever been. It's going to air first in the UK, and then it's going to be translated into I don't know how many different languages and broadcast all over the world. So it's quite exciting. I never really made a formal announcement about it. I mentioned it in one of the previous videos and whatnot. But it's exciting. And it's also exciting because the people that are doing this show are actually, you know, a lot of times these shows, I mean, I've been offered shows before, and we've been talking to other networks and stuff for years, but a lot of them have been, the previous stuff that I've heard from people have been stuff where they talked about wanting to do shows with me being like a regular part of the show. But this is different. This is where they're just, you know, interviewing me for a series they're already doing. But you talking to the producers and whatnot, you know, I was sitting there kind of rattling off some of the info and stuff, and they were just, you know, right there with me. They had already, you know, they knew all about it. They're on board with this stuff. It's fantastic. I mean, it's great to see. I don't know, you know, I'll be honest with you. I don't know how much of what I'm going to talk about, if any, will, you know, I just don't know. I don't know how much of they're going to let go on air. Because you know me, I'm not going to bullshit them. I'm gonna shoot them straight. Specifically on the stuff with a lot of Scientology, I know Scientology's in the news right now quite a bit because of this documentary adaptation of the book Going Clear, which aired on HBO last night. I haven't had a chance to watch it yet because, well, frankly, I don't have cable, and like the rest of the poor folks out there, I got to wait for the BitTorrents to come out and whatnot. So. But I've read the book, and I know basically what's going to be in it. The one thing that I am pleased that they're mentioning in this documentary is they are showing the connection to the OTO and Jack Parsons and the rest of it. But what I know they're not going to show, well, they may. I mean, I can't say I know they're not going to show it. I'd be surprised if they show this. They don't mention this in the book. And again, it's HBO, and while I know there's going to be a lot of explosive things in the documentary and a lot of things that people have never heard before, to those of us who've been researching this stuff for a long time, really none of the stuff in there is going to be new. But the main key element that I'm going to be mentioning in this broadcast is how Scientology was a whole cloth creation of the Central Intelligence Agency. That's the one thing they want to. They want to know. Well, okay, secret societies, and they want to talk about the Illuminati and all this stuff. And really all of this stuff. And a lot of you I know this. That the Illuminati, as far as that's concerned, what it is and how it exists today. And I hear very few researchers talk about this. It's not the same as it was when it was the Los Alumbrados Society. We're talking previous to Adam Weishaupt. Most people in the conspiracy realm go Adam Weishaupt, 1776, that's it. They don't go any farther than that. But it existed long before Adam Weishaupt. The key thing to understand about the Illuminati as it is, I don't believe, from my own personal research and years and years looking at this, I don't believe that it exists in the way people have it in their minds to exist. And I don't think it exists the way it used to exist back in the days of Weishaupt and before. More of how it exists now is like let me think of an example of this. You know how a corporation will buy a smaller company? A company will already exist and have existed for years, and they'll have their logos, and they'll have their slogans, their brand, whatever. And this company exists. Another big company, big conglomerate or something comes along and buys them, right? And then years go by and years pass. And after a while, people forget, or a lot of people just flat don't know, that this company existed on its own autonomously before being owned by this big conglomerate. So they associate everything with that particular company. Well, what's a good example? Like Steve Jobs started Pixar, and then Disney bought them out. But everybody associates Pixar with Disney. They don't associate it with Steve Jobs. For the most part, a lot of people don't even know that Steve Jobs created that. The guy who created Apple and all that stuff. Kentucky Fried Chicken, Taco Bell, whatever. Those companies existed on their own as independent companies and got bought out by other companies. But the company that owns KFC now didn't invent the Colonel Sanders logo, did they? No, but most people, especially younger people, or people that generations go by, and people just, associate that symbol with whatever the current business is. And that's the same thing with the secret societies, the Illuminati and whatnot. The people who are controlling the planet now, the Central Intelligence Agency, all the intelligence, British intelligence, Mossad, these groups, the corporations as well, the military, they have basically, I think hijacked, a lot of people say hijacked. I think hijacked might be a strong word, but appropriated would probably be more appropriate for what we're talking about here. So these modern day, really modern day slave owners, let's just call a spade a spade. That's really what they are. The corporations, the big conglomerates that own the media, that own the everything, really. Everything in our reality. They realized the power of these symbols, and they realized how they could be used, and so they've appropriated them to use them for their own purposes. And I think that gets lost oftentimes. People see stuff in movies. There's a million videos on YouTube and a million websites out there and a million radio shows of people Illuminati this and Illuminati. Every time a symbol comes up and is used somewhere, they automatically associate it with the idea of this shadowy, group who are in secret somewhere running the world affairs. And we all know there are secretive groups. I've made a career out of exposing secret societies and secretive groups, and the Council for National Policy and all these other groups. But the fact of the matter is, and the Bilderberg Group, we all know about all those things. The fact of the matter is, it's just not like what people perceive it to be and what a lot of researchers and conspiracy theorists and whatnot put out there. These symbols are being used by the people that are in power presently throughout the world. And by reinforcing this idea that these symbols are being used by some shadowy Illuminati group, they absolve themselves of any blame or any association or connection or anything else. Because, hey, you've got a billion fucking, YouTubers and everything else out there, and everybody who are continuing to proliferate this idea that this shadowy Illuminati is running things, and we can't name them enough. But the fact of the matter is, we know who runs. We know who runs things. Of course, there are levels of control, and there are levels of people who are involved whose names we will never know. I've talked about that extensively through the years in all my shows that I've done. But when you really get down to it, these are not, shadowy organizations. These are people who recognized the magical power of these symbols and have used them for their own devices in the modern day. And, that's kind of my problem with what gets put out about Scientology and the rest of the stuff. Scientology, and I'm sure, like I said, I'll give you the report once I watch the Going Clear documentary. But from the book, they tend to reinforce this idea that Scientology is just a cult that sprung up on its own, and they're an autonomous cult, and they never finger the real people involved in it. And the fact of the matter is, it's documented, and I'm going to walk in there when they do conduct this interview. I'm going to walk in there. I've got, I'm going to lay it on them. I'll tell you right now, I'm going to lay it on them. I'm going to walk in there with fucking documents. Bam! I'm going to show them. I'm going to make them put it on film. If it makes it to air, if it doesn't make it to air, that's not on me. But I'm going to walk in that room with the documents that show the founding documents of Scientology, and how it was something like 4 or 5 of the original founders of Scientology were FBI agents. L. Ron Hubbard himself was OSS. You know what OSS is? The Office of Strategic Services. You know what it was before that? Was the ONI, the Office of Naval Intelligence. Why do you think L. Ron Hubbard was all wrapped up in nautical themes? Sea Org, which is this Scientology-based group. All the stories of L. Ron and his obsession with yachts and boats and the rest of this. That's because previously to the OSS, it was the ONI. And then, of course, the ONI became the OSS, and then the OSS became the CIA. And L. Ron Hubbard, it's an indisputed fact, was an officer of the OSS. And his job, originally, was to go to England and infiltrate the Crowley organizations like the OTO, and then bring that information back. And that information that he gained from being involved with Jack Parsons, and they do talk about that in the Going Clear. They talk about the connections to Jack Parsons and Crowley. That's good. I'm glad that that's going to get out there to a much larger audience. But a lot of people, already know that. The fact of the matter is, the reason L. Ron Hubbard was charged by the OSS to go and infiltrate these groups like the OTO and the rest of it, was to bring back the magical knowledge and information that pertain to the symbols, just like the like the all-seeing eye and stuff like that we all know about, that would then be used in what was then the early days of the MK Ultra mind control program. And this is why he was sent to go and infiltrate this. His code name was Freighter H. A lot of people for years didn't know. Freighter H had been written about for many years. People didn't know Freighter H was actually L. Ron Hubbard. And so basically, because he had absorbed this information during his duties as an OSS officer infiltrating these groups, he then took what he learned and used that for his basis to start Scientology, because he was involved in the early days of MK Ultra, the mind control programs that the OSS and then later the CIA were creating. He was there on the ground floor of that. And when you look at Scientology, it's trauma-based mind control 100%. And it's not a coincidence that the basis of Scientology being trauma-based mind control has so many parallels and direct connections to the same sort of things we saw happen in the experiments going on during the military's MK Ultra mind control operations, programs, experiments, and the rest. He applied that to Scientology, and with CIA funding, with the graces of the federal government itself, he created Scientology, and it has been working and operating in tandem with the government from day one. And I'm going to walk in there and show the documentation of this. Now, in the Going Clear book, they really try to hammer home this idea that, the government is against Scientology, and the FBI, the biggest raid the FBI ever conducted was against Scientology. Again, the FBI is compartmentalized like any of these groups. Why is it that we have the documents that show you had FBI agents on the ground floor of creating Scientology, and yet they're also involved in the biggest raid ever the FBI ever conducted happened to be on Scientology? It's a ruse, folks. And so that's my problem with this stuff like Going Clear and the rest of these things. They're not going to show people the whole truth. They're not going to reveal the whole truth. And the problem with these groups is the fact that all cults, look at the Moonies. I've covered the Moonies extensively in my films, the Secret Rite, Volume 1, Volume 2. We talked about the Moonies a lot. The Moonies were another one. The Moonies weren't just a cult that was sprung up from this Reverend Sun Myung Moon guy. He was on the CIA payroll. He was a part of drug trafficking operations. He was connected to the Japanese Yakuza. All of these groups have been working in tandem with the government for years. Hell, there's pictures of Sun Myung Moon in the heyday of the Moonies in the 70s, hanging out in the Oval Office with Nixon. That's not a coincidence. Why do you think in those days the FBI and the government, even there's documents you can go look up, they even labeled the Moonies a cult and a group of concern. But meanwhile, he's going and meeting and he's welcomed with open arms into the White House with Nixon. All of these cults, folks, every single one of them. Do your research. Look into the connections to the CIA and Charles Manson. You think Charles Manson? Most people do. Most people think Charles Manson was just some random crazy guy that came. The guy was CIA all the way. All the way. The connections are there in spades. So, long story short, really, what I'm mentioning is why I'm telling you all this is that it's great that people are getting exposed to Scientology the way they are now and whatnot, but again, it's just like any of these other things. They never give the whole truth. So I have made it, as I always have with all of my work, it always ends up being my duty to have to be the one to put the real truth out there. And that's certainly what I'm going to do in this interview. Now, granted, again, what they end up putting in this thing is not, is not going to be up to me. It's not my call. I'm going to conduct the interview. I'm going to do my best to show them the facts, but what ends up being in the program, is out of my hands. So that's why I am going to make my own film on these subjects and have that. I don't know exactly when. I'll find out, I guess, in a week whenever I do this interview. But I don't know exactly when this thing's going to air, but between now and the time that this thing airs, I'm going to have my own film out on these subjects so that by the time that thing airs and people, because my website's going to be getting hammered. I'm going to be getting a lot of attention. So I want to have something ready. That way, if people watch this show and they cut my interview to shit and cut and paste and edit it or do, I don't have any reason to think that it's going to be a hatchet job or anything like that, but I don't have any reason not to either. Better be safe than sorry, So that's why it's been my plan. People have wanted this film for years. People wanted me to make a film about, the Hollywood stuff and the CIA stuff and the music industry. And really, it's no different than the music industry. It's the same thing. It's all one and the same. We talk about Hollywood, really, we mean movies, music, TV, whatever. It's all one thing. But anyway, I plan on having my own film out there and available and ready to buy when this documentary airs. That way, because by then, people will have seen this going clear. People will have seen whatever this 12-part conspiracy series is they want to have me in. And, we need to have something out there for people to get the rest of the truth, because as much as I think this program has good intentions, just from talking to the producers and whatnot, you can't always bank on that. So I think it's important that we have a film out there where people can go and find the truth, more of the truth, the deeper truth that they probably won't show on TV about this stuff. And that's why I'm going to be making this film called The Spellcasters, Who Really Controls Hollywood. And down here in the read more section of the video, we'll have a link there for the Indiegogo campaign. We're only going to be running this for 14 days. It's got 14 days left. $1,100 is all we're asking for this, just to cover the day-to-day expenses and software stuff. We're going to buy some more plugins for editing software and just various things. It's going to cost me a little bit to be able to produce some discs and whatnot of this film. So you can go to the Indiegogo link there in the video. You can also find it at our Global Reality Facebook page, which you can get to at my website, www.theglobalreality.com. The Spellcasters, Who Really Controls Hollywood, that's going to be the name of this film. And I'll read you the little synopsis here. Filmmaker Josh Reeves brings his 20-plus years research to the table to expose the real controls of Hollywood, television, and the entire mass media mind control machine. From suspicious deaths and propaganda to cults, brainwashing, black magic, MK Ultra, and more. This film will show what others have been afraid to say on the subject and set out to once and for all bring these manipulators out of the shadows. We've got some great perks up there. You can get your name in the film. $100. Every donation for the perk, $100, that'll get your name in the film. Special thanks. $300, $500, and then the big one is $1,000. And for $1,000, you get your name in the credits as executive producer. So this film will undoubtedly, because of its connection to this interview I'm going to be conducting, will reach more people than any film I've ever done. Hands down. And the great thing about it is it doesn't require a huge budget. I don't have to travel, all over the goddamn country like I do for these Lost Secrets films. I'll tell you what, I've never worked harder in my life than I've worked on those two films. If you've never seen my Lost Secrets of Ancient America films, Volume 1 and Volume 2, I don't know what you're waiting on. You need to go to my website and get yourself a download. those films immediately, or buy yourself a DVD or a Blu-ray, either one. But Volume 1 took me almost 10 years to make. It was almost 4 hours long. But this film, this is a great opportunity, but we've got to get some cash in here to get this thing going ASAP, because, again, these guys that are doing this interview, they're not fucking around. I mean, they're rip-roaring ready to go. This thing may be airing a lot sooner than I'm thinking it is. So, anyway, go there and make a contribution. I mean, look, go look at my YouTube video stats. Hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands of people view my videos. We only need 1,100. If 11 people donate $100, or 22 people donate $50, we've just made a film that's going to reach more than any other of my films I've ever made. And you can get your name in it. You know, for the record, for posterity, you helped make this happen. So please go there and contribute to the Spellcasters Who Really Controls Hollywood. You can also contribute to our Dig project for the rock wall as well. Links are in there at the bottom of this page. Well, and at my website, theglobalreality.com. All right, let's get into some news. We have a ton of it here. Cartel-funded sex parties of DEA agents from USA Today. For years, Drug Enforcement Administration agents posted in Colombia engaged in sex parties involving prostitutes who were supplied by local drug cartels. A Justice Department review found on Thursday the Justice Inspector General's inquiry, which examined how federal law enforcement agencies handled sexual misconduct and harassment reports, concluded that 7 of 10 agents allegedly involved admitted attending parties in Colombia where local police officers often stood guard protecting the agents' firearms and other property. In addition, the report found 3 of the DEA agents, all described as supervisory special agents, were provided money, expensive gifts, and weapons from drug cartel members. And, I mean, that's, you know, I've had those arguments with people so many times, because there's just so many people that are, you know, even though the proof is there in spades, there are still people that think the government can do no wrong, the police are not bad, you know, they act like corruption is just fiction and fantasy. And heaven forbid you try to tell some of these people that, you know, groups like the Drug Enforcement Agency, shouldn't they be called the Department of Drug Destruction, or the Department of Drug Eradication? Something like that you would think would be better. But the Drug Enforcement Agency, yeah, they're enforcing drugs. The Agency of Enforcing Drugs on America. They're enforcing the ability to be able to get drugs. I mean, these guys have been in bed. Who do you think brings the drugs in? Who do you think puts them on the streets? But there are still people out there who will, you know, defend government institutions all up and down the board. They refuse to see the truth, even though it's right there themselves. And there'll still be people, I'm sure, about this story that will say, oh, it's just an isolated incident. No. No, it's not an isolated incident. These are just the ones that they actually caught. God knows how many are doing it and have been doing it that have never been caught. But that's what they do with all these things. They'll burn a few guys every now and again to make it just so they can continue doing it. Because the public sees this and go, oh, well, you know, they caught them, so they won't be doing that anymore. Wrong. This is the way they enable this stuff to keep going. They burn a few guys publicly, and then the public just thinks, well, they got caught, so they won't do that again because, you know, they'd get in trouble because they've already been caught doing this once. No. These are the guys who are, the drug cartels are working hand in glove with the federal government, the DEA, and the rest of it. And the DEA's job is to make sure that no competition pops up. They want to make sure no clandestine cartels or clandestine drug dealers pop up. And if they do, they go report it. They go let the cartel know this. It's a back and forth. And then the cartel goes and eradicates them. And, it absolves the DEA from any involvement. It's been going on for years, man. Lobbyist claims Monsanto weed killer is safe to drink and then bolts when the TV host offers him a glass. This is, this kind of stuff has been going on for years. A controversial lobbyist who claimed that the chemical in Monsanto's Roundup weed killer was safe for humans refused to drink his own words when a French television journalist offered him a glass. In a preview of an upcoming documentary on French TV, Dr. Patrick Moore tells a Canal Plus interviewer that glyphosate, the active ingredient in Roundup herbicide, was not increasing the rate of cancer in Argentina. You can drink a whole quart of it and it won't hurt you, Moore insists. You want to drink some? The interview asks. We have some here. I'd be happy to, actually. Not really, but I know it wouldn't hurt me. I mean, double speak, party of one, your table's now ready. Double speak, party of one, table of one. Yeah, your table's ready over here, double speak. I mean, did you hear that? Did you hear that guy? I'd be happy to, actually. Not really, but I know it wouldn't hurt me. I'd be happy to means I'll do it. Then he says, not really, but I know it wouldn't hurt me. Now, which one is it? Either you're happy to, you don't really want to do it, or you know it wouldn't hurt you. If you say so, I have some, the interview presses. And then he says, I'm not stupid. Well, wait a minute. You just said you'd be happy to. Now you're saying you don't want to? And he says, I'm not stupid. And then the interview says, so it's dangerous. But Moore claims that Roundup is so safe that people try to commit suicide by drinking it and they fail regularly. That's your argument? Oh, it's safe because people drink it all the time and try to commit suicide. It doesn't kill you instantly, dumbass. Obviously, that's not the point. The interviewer's point is that exposure to this stuff gives you cancer. Now, does cancer kill you instantaneously as soon as you get it? No. It comes on the installment plan, but I mean, that's what a piss poor response. Oh, people try to drink it all the time, commit suicide, they fail. Right, because no. So his argument is, it's safe because it doesn't kill you instantly. Oh, people drink it all the time and try to kill themselves, but they don't die, they fail. Well, what, dying from cancer 2 years down the road is failure? We're just taking the slow route. Tell the truth. It's dangerous, the interviewer says. It's not dangerous to humans, Moore remarks. No, it's not. So, are you ready to drink one glass? No, I'm not an idiot. And then he says the interview's finished and he storms off, right? So his argument is it's safe because it doesn't kill you instantly. So in Monsanto's mind, anything that doesn't kill you instantly is safe. Who cares if it kills you, Well, my dad died of cancer, and he used to use Roundup like it was fucking going out of style. Now, he smoked and he drank too, and took a lot of prescription pills, but, combination of those things. But Roundup, nobody's sitting there trying to say, his argument is it's safe because if you drink it, you won't die instantly. But that's not the interviewer's point. The interviewer's point is that this stuff is carcinogenic. And that's the bottom line, and that's what he's dancing around. Come on. It's safe because you don't die instantly. So I guess that's their whole modus operandi, huh? With GMO foods and the rest of it, yeah. GMO foods don't kill you instantaneously either. Does that make them any more safe? No. It's an incremental thing. Suicide on the installment plan. That's what it is. Alright, let's see what else we got here. The Knights Templar shows how to fight ISIS and win. I thought they weren't calling it ISIS anymore. I thought they were calling it Islamic State. 701 years ago, on March 18th, the last Grand Master of the Knights Templar was burned at the stake in France. As he died, Jacques de Molay cursed the French king who had betrayed him and whose own dynasty collapsed 14 years later. That didn't help de Molay, whose order was exterminated as a road bump in the path of French power. Today, days after the Iraqi government admitted that its attack on Tikrit has ground to a halt, the death of the Templars offers lessons on how to fight the Islamic State, an entity they would have recognized very well. The only successes against ISIS have come at the hands of expressly ethno-sectarian groups. Blah, 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 blah. So, I mean, they're basically, long story short here, this is a cheesy, shitty article, but this is hilarious. Basically, they're saying the Knights Templar would be able to handle a holy war. Yeah. Well, the fact of the matter is, the Templars are still alive and well. They may not be out there publicly, but they're still alive and well, and there are Masonic orders of the Templars that are still alive and well. And if you look into my work into the Secret Right, into the Council for National Policy, these guys call themselves the Modern Crusaders. Blackwater calls themselves the Modern Crusaders. They call their Jeeps and their vehicles and their tanks, the Templar 1 and the de Molay 2 and the rest, But they put out this thing to the public where they act like these groups don't still exist, and the fact of the matter is they do still exist, just like we talked about earlier with the Illuminati. They just exist in a different form, with a different face, but the agenda's the same. Let's see what else we got here. So, something I've talked about a lot over the years has been rare earth metals. We've talked about, I've been talking about for years how China's had the stranglehold on rare earth metals, and how we've been searching for a way to be able to get off of the stranglehold that China's had on rare earth metals. And but the main thing about it is that the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, has regulations on the mining and the extraction process. That's really what is tough, is the extraction process for a lot of these metals, because they involve chemicals that have nasty side effects, and nasty things, that byproducts that are produced from these extraction methods. But all of a sudden lately, they've been talking a lot about rare earth metals in the news, when they didn't used to ever talk about them at all. And 60 Minutes recently ran a segment on rare earth metals, and I thought, for the most part, from my own research and work and looking into rare earth metals, that surprisingly they got it pretty much right. But Forbes magazine, and I've exposed the connection to Forbes and the CMP and all that stuff for years, seems to have a problem with that. What 60 Minutes got wrong about rare earths in China? 60 Minutes ran a segment on how American industry, and more importantly the American defense industry, is prostrate before a Chinese monopoly of rare earths production. This is, of course, very worrying for all sorts of very serious people, and something that no doubt should be done. There is a slight problem with the analysis 60 Minutes presented, though, that problem being that their analysis was wrong. And I say this as someone who works in the rare earth industry, someone who has at times been a near monopoly supplier of one of the rare earths. He won't tell us which one. I mean, come on. You can't make a statement like that. Full transparency, dude. That's how these fucking slick liars and these guys, these corporate asshats work. You know, they take offense when somebody puts out something that could, you know, mess with their business, but then they don't want to give you too much information. Full transparency, buddy. Tell us what, you know, rare earth you've been a near monopoly supplier for. And even a supplier to the U.S. defense industry of non-Chinese rare earths. Here are the most important lines in the 60 Minutes report. But trouble is once again looming for the U.S. rare earth industry. Since restarting operations 2 years ago, Molycorp's Mountain Pass mine has yet to turn a profit, and so deeply in debt that just last week its own auditor warned it may not be able to stay in business. That part is true, as far as anyone in the industry knows. True, Molycorp, which runs the only producing U.S. domestic rare earths mine, is deep in the financial doo-doo and may well go bust without recapitalization, as was true of the major Australian rare earths miner Lynas Corporation until a recapitalization a few months ago, back in September 2014. You do not have to be excessively cynical to note that shareholders might prefer to have some government support rather than having to put more of their own money into such companies. That call for support, unless there truly is some important defense interest, should be rejected, of course, for making losses, as these firms are doing, is the universe's way of telling you to stop doing what you're doing. However, on the detail of what 60 Minutes tries to tell us about rare earths, what do cars, precision-guided missiles, and the television you're watching right now have in common? They all depend on something called rare earth elements. Unusual metals that are sprinkled inside almost every piece of high-tech you can think of. Most people have never heard of them, but we have become so reliant on rare earths that a few years ago an intense global power struggle broke out over their free flow. The reason is that one country has a virtual monopoly. Roughly 90% of the mining, refining, and processing of rare earths is China. And in 2010, it used that power to disrupt the world's supply. It's especially troubling because it was the United States that started the rare earth revolution in the first place. And that's true. And where did that start? Beringer Hill, as I've talked about, where I believe the materials for the rock wall were quarried at. Well, that's not particularly true. It certainly was true some years back, but it isn't now. And I'm able to point back to something I wrote for Foreign Policy, Foreign Policy magazine, mouthpiece of the elite itself, to explain why it used to be true but is no longer true. Quote, if rare earths are so precious, why is the United States working harder to collect them? Well, the answer is they can't. The EPA, our Environmental Protection Agency, has passed laws where the mining of these things and the extraction is illegal because of the environmental fallout. The main reason is that for these last 25 years, China has been supplying all we could eat at prices that we are more than happy to pay. That's an absolute lie. That is an absolute lie. The fact of the matter is, number one, we had no choice but to start buying rare earths from China for two reasons. Number one, we regulated ourselves out of the market. That's number one. And number two, as he stated there, he's correct, they were offering them at such a low rate that it made more sense for us to buy from China, because it was cheaper to buy them from China than it was to, manufacture, extract, and have to toe the line with the EPA ourselves. The same as how they shipped all of our manufacturing and everything else over to China. It's cheaper for us to have China manufacture goods and ship them over here, and we buy them from China at a discount rate and sell them in our stores, than it is for us to produce these things here ourselves and put them on the shelves. It's the same thing. The fact of the matter is, they have been secretly, and I found evidence of this. You'll see the evidence of that in my film, The Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 1, from the footage I showed at Beringer Hill. The fact of the matter is, they have been secretly, and under the radar of the EPA, going into locations where rare earths have been found, and they have said, without a shadow of a doubt, Behringer Hill down in Llano, Texas, where that Lawnite I showed you comes from, is the world's largest cache of rare earth metals. The world's largest cache of rare earth metals is found in Llano, Texas. Lake Behringer Hill and Lake Buchanan. Fact of the matter. And I found evidence and got it on videotape myself because they closed off the Homeland Security closed off the dam where Behringer Hill was located. You used to go and access it. You can't. I got video footage of there being diggers and all sorts of heavy machinery in that exact area. Homeland Security shut off. There's a gate we used to go to. There's a gate and there's big nests of security cameras over there. Again, I talk about that in Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 1. They have been secretly mining rare earth metals in violation of Environmental Protection Agency laws at least since 2010, maybe before, as far as I know, at least since 2010. And this is why now they're putting out these shill stories to try to counteract what 60 Minutes has put out there. Because they don't want people to know that, well, it's just like they don't bother going on and telling the nightly news or 60 Minutes or whatever and telling people how much of our debt China, owns. And basically how they pretty much own our country. And have owned our country for many years. Because, the flag-waving Americans just don't want to have to accept that. That's the fact of the matter. These, America-loving, patriotic, good, oh, I love America, oh, America is the best, never does anything wrong. Buddy, your fucking America is owned by the Chinese. What was it, the Borat guy? The Dictator. You ever see that movie, The Dictator? When he first gets to the United States, America, built by the blacks and owned by the Chinese. I mean, he's telling the truth, isn't he? I mean, that's it. But yeah, the whole reason why they're trying to downplay this China thing is because they've been secretly mining these for years. And now they're trying to come out and kind of tease that they, the fact that they've been mining these things, but at the same time being like, oh no, China doesn't have a stranglehold. No, we're good. No, yeah, but they don't want to offer up exactly where all this is coming from. To say that one little mine that, as they mentioned here, has been in danger of going under, is producing the bulk of the rare earth metals that our country uses in, satellites, intercontinental ballistic missiles, every kind of computer you can name. It's just a flat lie. Let's see what else. Now this is fascinating. A lot of the sites that we visited in some of these Lost Secrets of Ancient America films, a lot of these sites really were, trying to think of what the word is. Well, like the Spiral Mountains. I mean, we went to the Spiral Mountains in Oklahoma, and there was there just hasn't been any interest in a lot of those sites for many years. They've got ex-convicts working the counters in there. They don't know anything about. You ask them a question about something, I don't know. I don't know nothing. Right, because you're just some fucking lackey out on parole who they stick behind, to take people's admission to these mounds. But after I started detailing the fact that they found a shield buried at the Spiral Mounds in Oklahoma that had a Maltese cross on it, and it actually had a serpent, swastika, and talking about them finding a giant buried there. Right after that, For the first time in 30 years, not 6 months after my film came out, they started a brand new excavation project. And I've noticed, I've seen article after article, folks. At many of the sites that we visited and documented for these films that really had no interest by anyone for years, ever since my films have come out, all of a sudden now, the states seem to be interested in these places, and they're having new excavation projects, putting millions of dollars into them. Dig underway at ancient Indian Mound along Tennessee River. Florence, Alabama. Hunter Johnson picks a small piece of flinty stone from the sifted dirt. He has dug next to the Florence Indian Mound Museum and holds it in the palm of his hand. Now, we covered this in the Lost Secrets of Ancient America, Volume 1, the Florence Mounds in Florence, Alabama. And we went there, and it's tucked away kind of in the corner of like the downtown area, right on the Tennessee River. They had a little kind of rundown little museum that wasn't much to it. There was maybe one or two other people there, same as all the other sites that I went to all around the country. Most of them always have one or two people there. And now, again, all of a sudden, since my film has come out and we've talked about the importance of that site, now all of a sudden they're interested in it. Now they want to put millions of dollars in it. They're having a new excavation site there. They're going to tear down the old museum and build a big new center. And I'm telling you, folks, I went to these places, and the people in these towns could give a shit about these sites. They don't give a fuck about these places. And now, because I've come along with the Lost Secrets of Ancient America films and shown how these sites connect in a much larger way and are not just important on their own, but are important to how they connect to sites even hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles away. Now, all of a sudden, they're going back in and doing new excavation projects, which are controlled by the state. See, they're looking for new things now. I'm telling you, folks, they've been paying attention to my work. There's no question about it. You can see it in the TV shows that air and the propaganda they've been trying to do to combat my work. It's just unbelievable. There's at least 4 or 5 sites like that we've seen. The Moundville in Alabama as well. There was some other stuff that went there not too long after we covered some of the stuff. But this article here, this is unbelievable. We've talked extensively about the dating of the rock wall and it falling in this around about 220, 230,000 year time span that coincides with the information in what is called the Sumerian King List, which talks about a 432,000 year pre-flood cycle in which these gods came to earth, built cities. This would have been what we know as, or what we think of as, the Atlantean times. And right in about the 200,000 to 220,000 year range or so was when they started erecting cities. And of course, this is what I believe the rock wall is. I believe it's one of these pre-flood cities that was built during that time range. And of course, the dating that John Lindsay and others have done verify that 220,000 year number. We also have the Sanderstone, the 2.5-ton garnet stone, which was found there near the rock wall. It has hieroglyphs on it that have never been seen anywhere else except on a coin that was found in a well up in Illinois. And this coin, which you can see in Lost Secrets of Ancient America Volume 1, has hieroglyphs on it that match this Sanderstone identically. And what tied it all together was the fact that this coin was found in a soil strata that dated to exactly 220,000 years. And the Smithsonian were very open about having this coin in their possession for long periods of time. They admitted it. John Lindsay actually was going to go and take pictures of it. He went there to go see it. They called him up. They said they had it. Yeah, we've got it. Come on down. Yeah, we'll show it to you. Whatever it takes. He goes all the way there. He gets there and they say, "Oh, we're sorry. We lost that. Yeah, we don't know what happened to that." Of course, because that's one of the big smoking guns in this whole thing. So to see this really blew me away. The father of all humans The father of all humans lived 239,000 years ago. I mean, do you still fucking think all of this is a coincidence? We've got the Sumerian king list. It talks specifically of the 220, 230,000 year range is when these pre-flood cities started being erected. We know from the ancient text that right around that time was when they started considering the toil of their labor to be too much, and when they started, creating chimeras, crossbreed chimeras to help them do the work. Because in the time of the Atlanteans, those pre-flood times, humans were considered beasts of burden, folks. They were considered like mules, like we consider mules and horses and cattle. And that's why it's said that the Atlanteans were wiped out, because they were committing bestiality. And when people read that, they think, oh, well, they were goat fuckers. These guys were fucking goats, or, chicken fuckers. No, they were human fuckers. Because humans during that time were considered beasts. They were considered animals. They weren't considered on the same level as these gods. Humans were the offspring that were created from the relations between these gods and their beast of burden humans. By sequencing the genomes of 2,636 Icelanders, the largest set ever obtained from a single population, researchers were able to identify that genetic mutations play a role in everything from Alzheimer's disease to liver disease. The Icelandic data also suggests that humanity's most recent common male ancestor, the father of us all, would have lived between 174,000 and 321,000 years ago. Right in the timeline with that pre-flood cycle that matches up exactly with the Sumerian king list, folks. When I saw that 239,000 year number, I just couldn't even believe it. 220,000 years for the Rockwell. These would have been, these pre-flood cities that were built during that time were considered to be the first cities that were erected on the planet. And that's what I have been telling people for years, the Rockwell absolutely is. That's what the evidence shows. We know beyond any shadow of a doubt that the Rockwell was covered in a catastrophic event that happened somewhere in the neighborhood of 13,000 years ago. The soil data conclusively shows that. It was covered fast and rapidly in a catastrophic event of some kind. So we were, again, with all of this evidence piling up, I don't know how anybody can deny this anymore. But this is why we've got to get our Rockwall dig off the ground, so we can document all this stuff, show all these dates and whatnot on film, on video, and get it out there to the masses so it can't be denied anymore. And with me having the opportunity, that's why I'm excited about this opportunity to be able to go on this British television show, because it's going to give us a chance to be able to expose what I do to an audience larger than... you think I got exposed to a lot of people when I was on Coast to Coast AM. That was fucking tiddlywinks compared to what this is going to be. So we're going to have an opportunity, if we can get the funding, the rest of the funding we need to have this, get this dig off the ground, we've got an opportunity to be able to take that information and make that information be able to reach a whole other audience we've never reached before. My Council for National Policy information with the Secret Right films is going to reach a whole other audience it's never reached before. So that's why you got to support us, folks. And all right, we're back. As I was saying, we just have not had a lot of financial support, folks, and we've got to have it right now, because this interview I'm going to be doing is going to expose my work, and has an opportunity to expose my work to so many more millions than we've ever been able to do before. And I've got to be able to get this work done before this airs. And the only way we do that is from the support of you, the audience. So please go to my website, theglobalreality.com. Make a contribution there through the donate button or to one of our Indiegogo campaigns. However you can do it. You can also go to our Let There Be Rocks Etsy page. Hey, go there and buy a bunch of jewelry from us. Buy some stones, buy some rocks. crystals. We've got a ton of great stuff up there. Go there, and you know, if people went in and bought a whole bunch of stuff out of that shop, you're going to get some amazing crystals, amazing jewelry, well below market price, tons of stuff. You know, we could make a couple of films. So go and do that. I had to restart the video there because if you see this cut and edit, if there seems like there's a cut, the camera was full, so I had to restart. But you know, I've been broadcasting and stuff for going on 8 years now, and I've been researching for 20-something years. And I've been working towards an opportunity to be able to get exposure on a level that would be able to make us be able to play on a much larger level, and we're finally getting there. But we've got to have some financial support in here ASAP, right now, not tomorrow, not a week, you know, not a week from now, not a month from now, right now. You know, we always have a lot of people say, oh, you know, now's a bad time. People always, you know, I've been on air for 8 years, and it's always, people always say, oh, it's a bad time. Oh, I can't remember. Well, when is going to be a good time? There's never been a better time than right now, right? Didn't Red Hot Chili Peppers say that? Never been a better time than right now. I don't like that band, but anyway, you get my drift. All right, let's continue on here. You guys hear about this weird German air crash thing? Where the guy supposedly locked the pilot out and then flew the airplane into the fucking wall? There's something very suspicious about this. They're saying this guy was on SSRIs. I don't know. It sounds like mind control to me, but you know, how will we ever know? I tell you what, to me, how you know is when you see things that happen in real life that are previously mirrored identically in fiction, like, you know, like the Lone Gunman episode, the pilot episode of The Lone Gunman, the spinoff from the X-Files. You know, where they hijack an airliner by remote control to crash it into the World Trade Center to blame it on third world terrorists. And so I saw this story about this plane crash. I thought it was, you know, to me it was just like, there it is, you know. This was probably some sort of operation or something. Outrage over the release of Oscar-nominated movie showing member of aircrew locking himself in cockpit to crash a plane and kill everyone on board. Film fans raised chilling similarity between Wild Tales and Alps Disaster. First scenes of movie show madman crashing jet to murder his enemies. An Oscar-nominated film will still be released in the UK today despite its disturbing similarities to the Alps air disaster, to the disgust of cinemagoers near the home of one of the 3 British victims. So this happened within days, folks, of this movie being released. Argentinian film Wild Tales features a mass killer who locks himself in the cockpit of a passenger jet and crashes it to the ground to murder everyone on board. In terrifying scenes, the fictional passengers panic, and one tries to smash his way through a door to get to the controls in chillingly similar circumstances to the ill-fated Germanwings Airbus A320 flight. The fictional killer invites his enemies on to the flight, including a lover who jilted him and a colleague who was hard on him at work, so he can kill them. If you believe in coincidences, really, and it blows my mind. You know, I tell people stuff all the time, and they'll be like, oh, well, I'm sure it's just a coincidence, right? You know, if you believe in coincidences, you just need to have your head examined. There is no such thing as a coincidence anymore, folks. Not when it comes to stuff like that. But there's just too much evidence. Remember when they used to say saccharin, the sweetener saccharin, was cancer-causing? And then they came back and changed that later on and said, no, actually, we were wrong. It actually doesn't cause cancer. Now they're saying, not only are they now saying that it's not bad for you and not carcinogenic, now they're saying saccharin could actually help kill cancer. Boy, that's a switch, isn't it? It's gone from can give you cancer to won't give you cancer to now could cure cancer. And I'll tell you this. Well, I'll tell you in a minute, but could saccharin help beat cancer? Researchers say artificial sweetener could inhibit cell growth. Folks, my great-grandmother lived to be, gosh, she was close to 100, maybe even 100, maybe over 100, maybe 103, I can't remember. She was around into the late 90s. And my grandmother, her daughter, died in 2010. 10 or 11 years. I mean, what's that tell you? My great-grandmother, folks, used to drink fucking saccharin like it was the tit of the gods. I mean, she would... And I remember everybody used to say to her, why do you drink that saccharin? Oh, it's so terrible. They say it gives you cancer. She never got cancer. She lived a long, long time. And my grandmother, her daughter, who never drank saccharin, died of cancer. So I think I'm going to start gulping down the saccharin. How about you? Saccharin could help beat cancer despite first being thought to cause it. They say it could be used to slow down cancer's growth, provide the opportunity for radiation or chemotherapy to be more effective at killing off the cancer cell. She did too. She slurped that stuff down like it was nobody's business. And she lived a long, long time. I mean, I think I was in my late teens or early 20s, I think, when she finally died. And I remember her being ancient when I was little bitty. Just goes to show you, folks. Former NASA engineer claims he saw a 9-foot alien on a 1991 space mission. A former NASA engineer claims he saw a 9-foot alien while monitoring a space mission in 1991. Clark McClelland was allegedly part of a team based at the Kennedy Space Center in Cape Canaveral, Florida, when he spotted the extraterrestrial humanoid. The entity, he said, stood on 2 legs and approached 2 U.S. astronauts that he would not name for 1 minute and 7 seconds in the space shuttle bay. His story has been hailed by supporters as the most conclusive evidence that intelligent life exists in space. I don't doubt that this could be true. Not one bit. Sure, it's possible. I question why now. If this happened in 1991, why didn't we hear about it in 1991? It's because, folks, now we've got this phony alien disclosure going on because the whole admitting to aliens and all this stuff has become a part of the agenda. They are never going to admit this stuff unless it can serve their agenda. But yet there's so many people out there, alien buffs and UFO buffs and researchers who are, all behind what they call disclosure, and I call it phony disclosure. And disclosure's happening, and we're going to get disclosure. They're going to give us the truth. Folks, the word truth and the word government never go hand in hand. And they never will. And if you think for a second you're going to get truth from NASA, the Never a Straight Answer Agency, give me a break. The only thing that they tell you, when they tell you, they do it to serve their agenda, period. So, I mean, this is a fantastic story. But again, why are we just now hearing about it? This guy didn't never feel the need to tell anybody until now. And boy, there's been a lot of hinting about this. You saw the thing with Jimmy Kimmel a few weeks ago, right? When Barack Obama was on Jimmy Kimmel. Did you guys see that clip? if you haven't seen that, I'm not going to get into it, but go watch the clip of Barack Obama on Kimmel if you haven't seen him. Watch what, because, I mean, why would just Jimmy Kimmel, just out of all the things he could ask him, see, you could tell that was staged. Jimmy Kimmel didn't think of that question or come up with that question to ask him on his own. That was completely staged. It was written by the script writers in the White House and the Pentagon and everything else. You could completely tell that was a staged thing. And watch Barack Obama's response is very, very interesting. I gotta do it. I'm sorry, I gotta do it. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, but Barack Obama essentially hints pretty heavily, or not really hints, I would say he sort of iterates that the government is under the control of aliens. He pretty much hints at it twice. And they kind of drop it like it's a joke, but if you watch the way he does it, he's sort of hinting that, because he says something, he asks him something like, I think Jimmy Kimmel says, if I was president, on the first day, the first thing I would do is I would go in there and I would get the truth about the aliens and I would let it out to the people. And Barack Obama says, well, that's exactly why you'll never be president. He said, they would never let you do it. And he says, they a lot, and they this, and, well, they wouldn't allow it to happen. And he says, well, who? And he says, well, the aliens. So they kind of do it as it's a joke, but they're also sort of hinting and sort of, playfully telling the public. To me, when you see stuff like that, that's when you know there's truth in there. The stuff they kind of, just jokingly about, But it seems that they're hinting that aliens run the government and they wouldn't allow the truth to come out, the rest of this stuff. I'm telling you, there's a major, and we all know this, it's been going on for a long time, there's a major agenda going on, and I think sooner than later, we're going to see some sort of phony alien revelation. I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times, folks. If they get on TV tomorrow, or the next week, or next year, or 10 years from now, I don't give a fuck when it is, if they get on the TV and start telling you aliens are real and start telling you this stuff, it's like anything the government tells you. If they tell you to be scared, hey, be calm, go about the rest of the day. On the other hand, if they tell you, hey, don't worry, we got this, it's all good, run, be scared. Then I believe that fear is the big problem. But anytime the government tells you, hey, it's all good, we got this, that's when you should worry. If they tell you, be scared, don't be scared. Go about your business, don't even worry about it. But one final story here tonight, and I remember this too, and I remember reading some of these comics at the time and thinking to myself, man, this sounds like they're talking about Scientology. But because it was kind of veiled, I just kind of wrote it off and said, eh. But now, with all the talk of Scientology recently, now I guess this is coming out. That time the Avengers battled Scientology. The turn of the millennium was a weird period for superhero comics, an era when financial desperation opened a path for wild experimentation. Marvel Comics was particularly hard hit, plunging into bankruptcy and emerging as a wounded giant. The company welcomed bold, weird ideas. Punisher became a zombie. Spider-Man and the X-Men got rebooted series where they were all angsty teens again. And a Scientologist joined the Avengers. And then the Avengers teamed up with the evil, superpowered leader of Scientology, and they all flew in a spaceship powered by the souls of Scientologists. And they fought a giant alien pyramid. I remember that. Yeah, it was it was either right before or right after 9/11. I remember that. And I remember reading those thinking, this is like Scientology, but it didn't come right out and say it, Okay, let's take a step back. Technically, the religion in question wasn't the Church of Scientology. It was an extremely thinly veiled stand-in for it called the Triune Understanding. The storyline about it was the brainchild of Avengers writer Kurt Busiek, who fully admits to the Triune Understanding status as a Scientology pastiche. Okay, so I didn't realize that either. I didn't know that either. So the guy who wrote these, okay, wow. Well, that's huge. So the guy who actually wrote these now actually admits that he was using Scientology as the basis for that. You know, I knew it. I remember reading those. Because this was before Marvel was owned by Disney. This was before the superhero movies were really the only movies that were being made. Now they're like the only movies that come out. But back then you didn't have Marvel Studios. You didn't have the Marvel Cinematic Universe yet. You had Sony that would pick up license. You know, they would pick up X-Men or Spider-Man or whatever. But I remember reading some of those around that time thinking, geez, you know, it might be over. You know, the heyday of comics, and I've been a comic fan my whole life, but, you know, I kind of at that time remember reading that and thinking, geez, you know, because they were on the verge of bankruptcy. And, you know, now they're, of course, bigger than they've ever have been. The storyline ran for an astounding 4 years, and perhaps most remarkable of all, this bizarre narrative thread was oddly tender and empathetic towards Scientologists. In honor of the current barrage of criticism lobbed at Scientology in the wake of the documentary Going Clear, let us revisit this strange chapter in superhero history. Busiek knew next to nothing about Scientology when he got the Avengers gig in 1998. Blah, 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 blah. You can read this on your own. But essentially, yeah, they were, I think that at that time, they were just plumb out of ideas. And they were mining ideas from wherever they could get it from. This is a long-ass article. That's why I'm not going to bother burning up video time. It takes long enough to encode these damn videos and upload them anyway. I'm not going to sit here and read this whole article. You can read it on your own time. Just type Avengers Scientology. You can read this article. But essentially, that's what was going on at that time. They were in financial dire straits. They needed a lifeline, and they were mining stuff wherever they could mine it from. I mean, like you said, they actually had comics where they turned the Punisher into a fucking zombie. I mean, give me a break. So at least that stuff is behind them. My website is theglobalreality.com. Be sure to hit up our Indiegogo campaign banners in the Read More section of this video and make a contribution right now. Also check out Let There Be Rocks. I'll put a link to that there in the section for you as well. You can go there and buy some jewelry, some crystals, whatever you like from us. And also check out our download store at my website, theglobalreality.com, where you can find my newest audiobook, Atlantis and the Giants. If you haven't got yourself a copy of Atlantis and the Giants yet, you really should. I think it's the best book reading I've ever done. It's about 7 hours long. It's only $10. Get a copy of that. Get yourself a download of my films. All my films are up there now. 9/11 New World Rising, The Secret Rite Volume 1, The Secret Rite Volume 2, The Lost Secrets of Ancient America Volume 1 and Volume 2. And you can also get DVDs and Blu-rays at my website, theglobalreality.com as well. There's also a donate button there through PayPal where you can make a donation through there. And we also have a what do you call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Wish list. Amazon wish list. If you want to buy stuff on there for us, you just go on there, make a purchase, and it'll send it directly to us. And in lieu of a cash donation, you can do that as well. But we got to have your support, folks, because big things are happening. But we've got to be able to get this work done before this video interview airs. So when it airs, we'll be able to hit them hard and expose this information to more people than we've ever been able to do before. And I've got us this far, but I need your help to go all the way. So please support our work right now today, folks. Whatever you can, please do it. My name's Josh Reeves, and we'll see you next time. You guys have a great one. Take care.